Well, we're hearing the news today that the TT World Series is finally about to, well, presumably become a reality. Matthew's with us about this. Your job is now to go out and sell this to try and find people interested. But let's go back a bit. It's been a long road for the Isle of Man anyway. The whole idea, this concept came up years ago. And have you been yourself, your company, involved since then to look at it and move it on?
Yeah, we've been working with the Department of Economic Development since 2010. Back in 2010, they asked for a feasibility study, an opportunity for the department to go out and speak to riders, to teams, to sponsors, to broadcasters, and to potential venues around the world, and really understand what the opportunity was and what the appetite was. Back in 2010 and 2011, when that feasibility report was published, we came back and identified a real appetite for this property, both on the island and around the world. A number of venues came forward, a number of sponsors identified that they would be very interested in this becoming an international property, and indeed a number of broadcasters said they saw real merit in this being something that goes global. So from that point, the department decided they would like to take this to the next level, and about 9 months ago we were engaged to start to develop what this series would look like. So really start to understand what the calendar would look like, what the proposal would be for a particular future promoter, for the teams, for venues, for broadcasters. In December, we had a meeting with the senior ministers of government, and they gave us the green light to now start to engage with the marketplace, to speak to promoters, to see out there who would be interested in becoming a delivery partner, to partner with the department and the wider departments of the island to deliver the TT, the classic TT, and the TT series globally.
Let's start one at a time. Let's just talk about the actual TT as it stands. It's run at the moment by the government as such. This will move it into a private/commercial opportunity and be run by a company, with the Isle of Man removed from it, or would they still be involved?
The Isle of Man would very much still be involved in this. What this does is this takes those elements that the Isle of Man is probably less well placed to deliver, such as sponsorship, such as broadcast, such as hospitality, and moves those commercial marketing elements to a third-party promoter, someone who has international network, someone who has international experience, and someone that can really take the Isle of Man properties to the next level. The Isle of Man government and the other delivery partners on the Isle of Man would still very much be involved in delivering things like the physical infrastructure, the roads, the safety equipment, but also they would be very much involved in delivering some of the softer elements, such as the marshalling, the volunteers, the information teams, all of those functions that so many residents of the Isle of Man get involved in and have been involved in for many years, if not decades.
And therefore still stumping up the money to put it on, or would this be what these commercial people would be putting in instead?
So the current costs to the island are completely on the Department of Economic Development, the Department of Health, the Department of Infrastructure. A good proportion, we estimate around 60% of that cost, would be moved to the promoter. So things like the costs of insuring the event, the costs of rider appearance fees, the cost of all of the TV production, TV broadcast. Those costs that would still inevitably have to remain with the island are things like the physical infrastructure, so maintaining the roads, providing medical services, providing the road closures and the policing of those road closures. So we expect around 60% of those costs to move to the promoter, with the Isle of Man delivering the remainder.
This is no ordinary event by any means, because of the very fact of the danger that this has. People die in it, and it's been seen, the government is sponsoring this by being the backers of it. Will a commercial entity really want to take on that part of it, the bad downside when things do go wrong?
I think that is very much part of the promoter selection process. Is we need to be completely certain that the promoter that we select, if we select a promoter, and we still need to go through a full process to select that promoter, that promoter fully understands the reputational responsibilities they have and has the experience and is ready to commit the resources to managing that. And so we need to make sure that through this process we ensure we get the right delivery partner that understands that and can deliver that.
And does that make it tricky then? Is this something, because you sell motorsport and things like this, is this one quite different from other things in your portfolio?
This one is different, and we like the Isle of Man TT because it is different, because it is a unique event, and that has driven some unique approaches actually from, and we have not explicitly gone out to market yet. We're about to go out to market, but we've already had some informal approaches from people who are already intrinsically involved in the TT, people who are already involved in motorsport, but from promoters who are involved in other global sports events, other global adrenaline sports events, where they see a real parallel with what they're trying to do. And so, yes, there is danger, yes, there is risk, but that actually is part of the unique selling point of this event that is attracting the promoters that we're seeing.
Will they own the brand, or do they just buy into it, the TT brand? Will it be their name above it, and it's called that in future, for instance?
What this is about licensing the organisational rights for the TT and the other TT events for a period of 10 years. They will have access to the brand, and they will have access to developing that brand periodically over time, but all of the intellectual property, all of the brand, all of the rights, and ultimately the TT itself will always remain owned by the island.
Okay, but the rights, you're going to be selling those TV rights. The company that you might get on board. Up to now, the hoo-ha has been between the TV provider now and the Manx version of that. We've had it before. Will that be their responsibility? Will they be trying to milk as much money, in other words, out of this by extracting as much as they can from this brand?
Certainly, that is part of the attraction of how the Department of Economic Development has developed the TT brand over recent years. And let's be absolutely honest, the reason why we are going to market at the moment is because the TT is at a level of popularity and a level of international prevalence that it's not seen probably in 30 years. And then that is why we're going to market when we are going to market. The promoter will have access to all of those rights, so absolutely we want them to go and find us a broadcast that will get us into as many homes as possible. We want them to find sponsors that will give us as much exposure as possible. We want them to find us venues that will give the Isle of Man brand and the industries that are on the island as much exposure in our target markets as possible. Okay. That is why we are looking for a promoter.
Got so much things to talk about really here. Let's talk about the World Series, or whatever word you want to call it.
Yep.
What? And I'm still trying to get my head around it. Exactly how can the TT be anywhere else but the Isle of Man?
It's a very good challenge, and we, from the outset, have identified we were not going to find another 37 3/4 mile track in another location. What the World Series is about, we're calling it the TT Series because it will be a series of events at global locations that will culminate in the Isle of Man TT itself.
On roads as such, rather than race circuits?
Absolutely, and we need to recognise what is unique about the TT. What is unique about the TT is that it's on closed public roads, that it is longer than your usual closed course race, that it has unique things like a fuel stop, that it has other unique things that bring the spectator close to the bikes, like an open paddock. And those are the things that we want to retain in a TT series. What that will probably mean, and it is up to the promoter to work with host cities around the world to understand exactly what is possible, that will probably mean is that a TT series will be 6, 7, 8 miles on closed roads, a field of around about 40 riders, 25 who are core to the series, and 15 who could come from local territories, subject to meeting minimum qualification standards. And they may well make use of existing paddock and pit facilities, but the vast majority of that racing will be on closed public roads.
And this company who you hope to get will be the branding for that as well, and basically owning 2 letters, well, the same letter twice, TT.
That is exactly right. So what you will see is that promoter will take the TT brand to global and iconic destinations across the world.
You've done a briefing to the rest of the members of Tynwald. Obviously, Coman has already been done some time ago. What was the reaction? What was the feel there? They like it?
There is a good deal of enthusiasm within the ministerial senior leadership. They obviously have some reservations that they want to be assured of before they make the final decision. What we have worked very closely with all the departments on is to ensure that we have the right governance structures for this future model, but also that over the course of the next 9 months we give both Comyn and Tynwald sufficient opportunities to really scrutinise how this process is going forward. So there will be a decision point in April once we receive the first list of promoters coming forward, really to scrutinise, are these of the right calibre, the right experience, the right track record to progress. And then in the autumn there will be a second decision that Tynwald will make where we will say, this is all of the proposals we've received, the commercial offers we've received, are these of the right calibre and are these of the right level of expectation for us to progress.
So this year's TT goes ahead as normal. Next year, if the company's in place, they can see what's going on and sort of share, is that right? And then after that, it would move into this commercial world.
Exactly. So we expect to be able to, if all of those go, no-go decisions, as we're calling them, are met, we would expect to be able to award a promoter contract in November, December of 2015. Yeah. Realistically speaking, the promoter will not have had time to build their organisation to contribute a great deal in 2016. So there will be a kind of a shadowing, but the 2016 event will very much be delivered as we know it today. 2017 will be the first TT that the promoter will take on themselves. We expect to see some test events in other international locations through the autumn of 2017 into the spring of 2016 into the spring of 2017. Then we would expect to see the full World Series established through the autumn of 17, culminating in the TT in 2018.
The Chief Minister's been making it known now he doesn't want things to be veiled in secrecy. Are you happy that this will be a transaction that will be in the public domain? People actually know what is going on, how much money is involved, or would you expect it would have to have those sort of secrecy contracts and clauses in place?
We are being entirely led by the Isle of Man procurement professionals. We are running the procurement per their processes, and so this is going to be completely transparent, completely open, and so we want this debate to happen involving all of the departments, all of the ministers, and following all the transparency rules that the Isle of Man procurement require us to follow.
Got people interested?
Absolutely, absolutely.
More than one?
We have absolutely more than one. We have not been formally out to market. This process that we're talking about now is due to start with a formal expression of interest that will go out at the start of February. However, just the informal conversations that we've been having have identified a number of parties, those who are already involved in the TT, those who are already involved in international motorsport, but also those who aren't necessarily involved in international motorsport but have taken other adrenaline brands and really taken them from niche properties to being world-renowned properties. Those are a number of promoters are coming from all corners of that landscape, and we are very encouraged by the number who are coming forward.
And it's more likely to be a fizzy drinks rather than a cigarette company, for instance. So you abide by those sort of ways that the world has moved on what can be deemed acceptable and what can't be.
The Isle of Man government will retain a set of reserved matters that will allow them to control and effectively draw up a blacklist of territories that we absolutely do not want to go to, sponsorship categories that we absolutely do not want to be associated with, and partnerships that are not congruent with the island. And those will be entirely determined by the Isle of Man ministerial team, and they will be binding on the promoter.
You do these things all the time, obviously. How excited are you, seriously, on this particular project?
This is something we've been involved in since 2010, and we have continued to push as much as we can from our side to encourage the department to start exploring these avenues. We think that there is some real untapped potential, both nationally within the UK, but also internationally of the TT brand and the TT series. And so we really want to work with the government to make sure that we are capitalising on where the TT is at the moment and really accelerating beyond.
And you'll know, is it August this year? You'll have hopefully some bids in. Is that right? August.
The final tenders will come in through August. We're reviewing and selecting through the autumn, and we will be able to put a final recommendation or set of recommendations in front of Tin World in November.